On yet another ordinary late night, you're sitting in front of your computer again, staring at a pile of spreadsheets and messages, your brain completely scrambled. Nothing major happened today, just a few meetings, a couple of emails, some family chores. Yet you suddenly realize, you don't even want to think about how you're going to get through tomorrow. You're not useless. You've always played by life's rules. Study hard, find a stable job, take care of your parents, maintain relationships, don't cause trouble for anyone. So why is it that now, you more and more often feel something terrifying? As if one more request, one more message, would be all it takes for your whole system to crash on the spot. Have you noticed that your breakdown doesn't look like the screaming, hysterical meltdowns in movies, but more like a silent falling apart? You can still joke, attend meetings, and post on social media during the day. But at night you just stare at the ceiling in a daze, unable to form a single sentence in your heart. What on earth is wrong with me? When the alarm goes off in the morning, your first reaction isn't, "What am I going to create today?" but a rapid mental calculation. Who do I have to appease so they won't get mad today? How many people's emotions do I have to absorb? How many meaningless tasks do I need to grind through? You say, "I'm fine, it's okay," out loud. But your body starts reminding you through migraines, insomnia, binge eating, or suddenly losing interest in everyone and everything that something in you has already reached its limit. At work, you look like that most reliable adult. If there's overtime, you'll never refuse. If there's extra work, you'll never say no. When something goes wrong, you're the first to step up and patch the hole. When praise comes, you're the one standing in the back row, clapping quietly. Everyone says, "You're really so steady." Only you know that this so-called steadiness feels more like standing on a floor full of cracks, forcing yourself not to collapse. At home, you try your best to play the role of the considerate child and the reasonable partner. You don't say you're tired, you don't voice your needs, you don't talk about your fears. After all, you've always believed that a mature person should process their emotions on their own. So whenever you're about to say, "I can't do this anymore," another old voice jumps out in your head. "Don't be so dramatic. You're not even that bad off." You scroll through social media, watching people your age change cities, change careers, start businesses, take gap breaks, go to therapy, and restart their lives. You feel tempted too. You imagine yourself pressing a reset button one day. But the very next second, you automatically switch back to that familiar way of calculating. Isn't that too unstable? What would my parents think? What if I fail? So you stay where you are. Envying, blaming yourself, and draining yourself dry all at the same time. You think you're falling apart because reality is too harsh, the workload too heavy, relationships too complicated. But let's ask it another way. If reality really is the problem, then why are there people in the same environment who seem to live lighter and lighter as time goes on? Why is it that on the surface you look more successful and more stable than you used to? Yet inside you're more anxious, more hollow, and closer to collapse than you were 10 years ago. Is it possible that what you truly can't hold up anymore? Isn't this chapter of your life? But that set of old ways of thinking that were stuffed into your head when you were young? That inner script of, don't trouble anyone, be a decent, respectable adult, safety is more important than being true to yourself, is being slowly torn apart by the life you're living now. This new life you're in. More choices, more uncertainty, more roles, more information. Yet you're still using a set of mental rules designed for an old world, old family, old era to deal with it. It's like trying to run the most memory-hungry software on a computer with an ancient operating system. At first it just lags. Then it starts freezing. And eventually you realize, you don't even have time left to save yourself. What truly scares you might not be the breakdown itself, but a darker possibility. If you stop being so sensible, stop being so obedient, stop propping everything up with those old strategies, will you still even recognize who you are? So maybe the real question was never, when exactly will I finally fall apart? But rather, what happens when my life has quietly moved into a new stage, but I'm still clinging to an old way of thinking? And what's even more brutal is this. Before you even become aware of this question, that old way of thinking may already have quietly stepped in and drawn up the route for the rest of your fate. To really see this, we have to come back to a truth that's hard to admit. Many of the choices you're living with now were never made by the grown-up you, but by an old child logic that the times have long since left behind. And it's still the one steering your life. This is what Jung called the persona. You wear a mask called sensible, reliable, never a bother, and use it to trade for safety, belonging, and a sense of existence. And all the anger, hurt, desire, and curiosity blocked out by this mask gets thrown into what we call the shadow corner. That inner dark room whose light you never dare to switch on. On the surface, this old way of thinking is very simple. Don't cause trouble. Don't make mistakes. Don't disappoint others. Don't ask for too much. But once it gets written into your psychological operating system, it turns into an auto-run program. As long as I'm good, sensible, and reliable, I deserve to exist in this world. The problem is, life has long since upgraded into a complex 3D open world. And you're still using your elementary school, good student rulebook as the user manual. How do you run this old system in romantic relationships? You deeply want to be seen and cared for. Yet your mouth always says, it's okay, I'm fine, I understand you, I don't need much. The more you do this, the more you attract partners who enjoy being cared for and understood by you, but never truly treat you as someone who also needs to be taken care of. In the end you're utterly drained, saying out loud, how can he treat me like this? While your body is still obediently following that old belief, as long as I don't voice my needs, the other person won't leave. Here's where the paradox shows up. The more afraid you are of being abandoned and the less you dare to ask for what you really need, the more likely you are to end up in relationships where you could be abandoned at any moment. You think you're maintaining the relationship, but in reality, you're cooperating with that old mindset, constantly training yourself to accept this premise. The moment I act like my real self, I lose love. In the workplace, how does this program run? Other people dump their mess on you, you take it all. Tasks that aren't even part of your job description, you still say, okay, I'll try. You're at the office until 11 p.m., and weirdly, that gives you a sense of comfort. At least I'm working hard. At least I'm not slacking. You think this is a strong sense of responsibility. But if you pause and ask, who am I trying to prove myself to? And prove what exactly? You'll realize that on those late nights of overtime, you're not proving your value to your boss. You're explaining yourself to that voice from years ago. See? I really am trying so hard. Please don't say I'm not good enough. And so another paradox appears. The harder you try to play the indispensable good employee, the less you can truly steer the choices in your own life. Because all your effort isn't about expanding your possibilities. It's about not being eliminated, not being disliked, not being blamed. It looks like you're very in control. But in reality, you're just trying to control what others think of you. In parent-child relationships, this old pattern is even more brutal. If you've already become a parent, you might say, I don't want to control my child the way my parents controlled me. But every time your child is disobedient, talks back, melts down, or explodes emotionally, the little kid inside you who was once scolded and denied gets instantly activated. And you can't help blurting out the very sentence that hurt you the most back then. Do you know how hard I work? Can you please be more sensible? You think you're educating your child. But in fact you're forcing the next generation to inherit the very set of rules that were once forced onto you. If you're still mainly in the role of child, this old mindset is even more hidden. Just one sentence from your parents, "We're only doing this for your own good," is enough to make you hit the delete key on all your own thoughts. And rewrite, how do I really want to live my life? Into, what can I do so they'll feel at ease? This is what we call self-betrayal. Over and over, you push down your own feelings, intuition, and boundaries to fulfill a set of rules you no longer truly believe in, but are too afraid to abandon. Over time, you can't even clearly say, what is it that I actually want? Kierkegaard once said, despair is the sickness of not wanting to be oneself. That hollow, I don't know who I am, feeling in adulthood, is often this gentle kind of despair. You've already become a qualified adult on the outside. Yet you feel less and less like your real self. If we go one layer deeper, this old way of thinking has another hidden premise: the outer world will always be stronger than you, you can only adapt to it, never rewrite it. So you unconsciously build your sense of security on two things. First, correctly guessing what others expect. Second, completing the answers others have already written. In the Hermetic tradition, there is a saying, as within, so without. But you've flipped it the other way around, constantly tweaking the outer, yet almost never examining the inner. All your anxiety comes from trying to patch and repair, so that a set of outdated internal code can somehow keep supporting a rapidly updating new world. The truly ironic thing is this ultimate paradox. The more you try to be a prudent, stable adult, the less courage you have to make any choice that looks self-willed or irrational. And the more fragile your inner system becomes. The slightest change, the tiniest disturbance, is enough to push you to the edge of collapse. You think you're controlling risk. But in reality, you're locking your life into an ever narrower track. So, adult breakdowns rarely come from one single event suddenly crushing you. They're more like this old-era survival logic, slowly draining you in a new life setting. The more you force yourself to hold it together, the more that shadow room, where you dump everything like trash, fills up with needs, anger, and desires that are not allowed to exist. In the end, it looks as if you've been crushed by reality. But if you had the courage to look a little deeper inside, you'd see a colder truth rising to the surface. What breaks you is never the new life itself, but the old identity you refuse to log out of. And the scariest part isn't that this mechanism exists, but that while you believe you're making independent choices, it has already, in places you're not aware of, quietly stepped in and little by little, written the trajectory of your entire life in stone. Next, if you're willing, through the story of a more concrete, archetypal character, we can take a closer look at how, when someone keeps using old thinking to prop up a new life, their fate curves slowly, step by step, bends toward collapse. Imagine a person like this. Growing up, the sentence she heard most often was, "What a sensible, well-behaved child." When she was sick, she didn't cry or make a fuss. When she changed schools, she adjusted by herself first. When there was conflict at home, she automatically retreated into the corner, like a patch trying to smooth over every crack. When she grew up, she gained a new name, the one who is always needed. On the surface, her life looks quite smooth. She finishes university step by step, has a respectable job, a seemingly stable relationship. And whenever her parents mention her in front of relatives, it's always with that "our child really makes us proud" tone. If you imagine her life as a house, the living room is brightly lit. There's always a spot on the sofa prepared for others. And there's always an extra bowl and pair of chopsticks laid out on the table. Only she knows that beneath this house, there's another room no one ever wants to mention. That's her shadow corner. A dark room with heavy curtains that never open, piled high with all the emotions that are not sensible enough. The urge to say no, to get angry, to be clingy, to say, "I don't want to keep holding on." Every day, before she steps out the door, she does a kind of psychological makeup. She puts on the mask of reliable colleague, paints on the stage makeup of gentle partner, and slips into an invisible layer of social skin. A protective shell designed to fit other people's expectations. This shell keeps her safe. But it also makes it harder and harder for her to tell which one of these is actually the real me. Her new life arrives very quickly. She moves from a small city to a big one. Projects stack up endlessly on her schedule, group chats ping non-stop. Her parents start hinting that she should think about marriage and having kids. Her partner hopes she can be more family-oriented. Her boss says to her, "You're steady. I feel safe giving you the heavy responsibilities. On a resume, all of this looks like a steadily rising curve. Her position advances, her income increases. Social status boxes get checked off one by one. But behind this smooth-looking curve, invisible cracks are quietly spreading across the floor of her inner world. One day, she suddenly realizes she hasn't asked herself in a long time. What do I actually want? Every choice hasn't grown out of her own heart, but out of other people's expectations. In her relationships, this life trajectory starts to tilt. When colleagues need someone to cover their shift, she never says no. When friends emotionally break down and need to vent, no matter how exhausted she is, she jumps online to be their emotional recycling bin. When her family needs her to come home and help, she's always the first to buy a ticket. Over time, everyone simply assumes she is available, can handle it, won't refuse. She gives more and more, while the people who can truly hold her up become fewer and fewer. Sometimes she wakes up in the middle of the night, and a thought pops into her mind that stings. If one day I really can't hold on anymore, how many people would even notice? Her body starts sounding the alarm. At first she thinks it's just lower back pain from sitting too long. Then it turns into inexplicable chest tightness, insomnia, and that hollow exhaustion the moment she wakes up. She goes for a physical exam. The report is full of vague words: mild, sub-health, functional. The doctor tells her, try to rest more, don't overwork. But no one sees that behind these symptoms is an entire old program buckling under its load. As long as I keep pushing through, it proves I'm still useful. Her range of life choices starts to narrow as well. Every time she wants to change jobs, change cities, give herself some breathing room, the old mindset immediately jumps out to pull her back. This is pretty stable already, don't rock the boat. You're not that young anymore, don't take risks. No one else is complaining, what makes you think you get to? So she stuffs every impulse to restart back into that dark room, again and again. The house still looks like it's standing, but the foundation has already been hollowed out bit by bit by all those repressed feelings. The day everything collapses, nothing dramatic happens. It's just an ordinary afternoon. Her manager suddenly throws her a proposal that must be finished tonight. Her partner sends a long string of complaints, and her mother calls, her voice tinged with hurt. You know how long it's been since you came home? As usual, she says, okay, I'll take care of it. She hangs up, and out of habit, she moves to open her laptop. But her fingers hover above the keyboard and simply won't press down. In that moment, it's as if she's been yanked off center stage and thrown into some shabby backstage dressing room. All the sounds go on mute. She can only hear a very small, very faint, yet incredibly clear voice inside. I don't want to live like this anymore. And then, her whole system crashes. She doesn't burst into tears, doesn't throw anything. She just sits in her chair, staring into space for over an hour. Even the vibration of her phone makes her feel physically sick. When she finally comes back to herself, she realizes that familiar fear is gone. In its place is an even more terrifying blankness. She suddenly has no idea who she's working overtime for, who she's striving for, who she's holding everything up for. This is what an adult breakdown really looks like. The real breaking point isn't a fight, isn't a breakup, isn't getting laid off. It's the moment you suddenly realize you have no idea who you've been living for. If you're willing to be honest, you'll see your fate curve and that of the one who is always needed are actually strikingly similar. At the beginning, it's outwardly smooth plus subtle inner discomfort. In the middle, it's countless acts of self-betrayal to keep your mask intact. In the end, it's some seemingly trivial event that suddenly becomes the last straw that brings the entire house down. She still has a chance to turn things around. So do you. But there's one condition. That old way of thinking that makes you look so steady has to be paused by someone brave enough to hit the button. From here on, what we're going to talk about is not how to hold out longer, but this. When you finally decide to stop using an old mindset to prop up a new life, where should that true rebellion begin? If, in the first half of your life, what you've always been doing is figuring out how to squeeze yourself into boxes designed by other people, then from now on, the kind of courage you really need is a counterintuitive master principle. Don't rush to upgrade your life yet. Learn to uninstall the old system that can no longer carry you. Your familiar old way of thinking says, if I just hold on a bit longer, it will get better. If I do a bit better, the problem will disappear. As long as everyone is satisfied, I'll be safe. But you've already tested this algorithm again and again. And its result is not greater safety, but feeling more hollow, more fragile, and closer to collapse. So from this moment on, you can quietly shift your goal from, how do I keep everyone happy, to, how can I live a little more honestly, as the person I am now, in this new chapter of my life. This is not about suddenly quitting your job, breaking up, or cutting people off. It's about starting with a few very small but crucial moves. Like installing patches in a system, slowly rewriting your inner narrative and identity, bit by bit. The following small moves are things you can actually start doing today. Tool 1. Give your old way of thinking a system name. The scariest thing about an old system is that it disguises itself as reality itself. You end up believing, that's just how it is. Everyone lives like this. So the first step is not to fight it, but to see it. Then, give this cluster of voices a name. Treat it as a system, not as the truth. You might call it the good child system, safety first firewall, or always needed 1.0. From then on, whenever these voices appear, you don't have to believe them immediately. Just silently say to yourself, oh, that's the good child system talking. That's not necessarily what I truly think. In terms of attitude, this is a flip from, this is just the kind of person I am, to, this is an old program running inside me. In terms of narrative, You are no longer a child dragged forward by fate, but someone who is beginning to act as the administrator of your own inner system. Tool 2. Practice one small act of breaking an old rule. The old system keeps whispering to you. As long as you're a bit more well-behaved, a bit more accommodating, everything will be fine. To crack it, you don't need a life-shattering decision. You just need to pick one small situation and make a choice that is the opposite of the old rule. First, think about what your most typical old rule is. It might be something like, if someone asks me for help, I can't say no, or, if my family asks me to do something, I can't say, I don't want to, or, if my boss throws me a last-minute task, I'm not allowed to say it's difficult. Then, choose a very low-risk situation and make one tiny move in the opposite direction. When a colleague asks you to help with something that is absolutely not urgent, you might reply, "My schedule is really packed these 2 days, I probably won't be able to help." Maybe ask someone who has more bandwidth. When your family wants you to come home this weekend, you might say, "I'm not coming back this week. I need some rest. I'll come next week and spend time with you." When your boss suddenly adds work, you might first ask, between this and what was already assigned, which one is the priority? I only have time to finish one. Take a sheet of paper and write down the 3 sentences that have been showing up in your mind most frequently over the past week. They might be things like, "I can't let people down," or, "The way things are now is already pretty good," "Don't take risks," or, "No one else is complaining, what right do I have to?" After you do it, don't rush to judge yourself as too selfish. Give yourself a moment to feel what's happening in your body. The heartbeat, the tension, the slight guilt, and also that faint, long-lost feeling of, "I'm actually living a little bit for myself." In attitude, this shifts you from, "I must be 100% cooperative," to, "I allow myself, in at least one small place, not to follow the old script." In narrative, you are no longer merely the one who is always needed, but you begin to grow into another identity, a person who has boundaries. Tool 3. Write a system downtime notice to your old program. Much of your past burnout happened because you've been silently working overtime for that old system, without ever telling it no. Now, you can try something that looks childish but is incredibly powerful. Using words to formally notify yourself that the old system is going into maintenance. Take out pen and paper and write yourself a letter titled, "Notice on pausing the use of old thinking to hold up a new life." In this letter, write about 3 things. First, write the report card of how this old way of thinking has helped you survive these past years, what it helped you avoid, what it helped you obtain. Then, write about the hidden costs it has charged you, which feelings, which relationships, and which possibilities you have lost because of it. Finally, write down what you are no longer willing to pay from today onward, what your bottom line is. At the end of the letter, add a declaration, something like, "From today on, I can keep working hard, but I will no longer sacrifice myself as the price." Or, "From today on, I will no longer judge my life solely by whether everyone else is satisfied." Fold this letter and put it somewhere you know. Whenever you feel yourself wanting to push on again out of sheer habit, take it out and read it. Remind yourself, you are no longer that child who had no choice but to obey. In attitude, this shifts you from, "I can only be summoned by the old system," to, "I have the right to pause its operation." In narrative, your story is no longer purely about passive endurance, it begins to include chapters of active negotiation. Tool 4. Ask yourself one updated question every day. The old mindset's favorite question is, if I do this, what will people think of me? For this new life, you need a different set of questions. You can create a small section in your phone's notes app called New System Questions. Each night before bed, ask yourself just one question and jot down a short answer. It might be, in which moment today did I choose from fear rather than honesty? Or, if I didn't have to please anyone, what is the one thing I most wanted to say today? Or, was there any moment today when I stood on my own side, even just a little? It doesn't need to be beautifully written. Even one sentence is enough. What matters is not how well you write it, but that you are beginning to allow yourself to give reality a different interpretation. As you keep doing this for a while, you'll notice a change. The outside world doesn't seem that different. But the way you explain the same events to yourself is quietly shifting. From, I had no choice, to, so I actually have other possibilities. In attitude, this moves you from, there's only one version of reality, to, I have the right to update my understanding of reality. In narrative, you are no longer just someone managed by rules, but someone learning, step by step, to rewrite those rules. You might ask, these actions seem so small. Do they really matter? Jung had a piercing insight to this effect. As long as you refuse to make the unconscious conscious, it will go on directing the course of your life, and you will call it fate. Every small move you make today is actually you dragging an old auto-running program out into the light, little by little. Don't underestimate these tiny acts of rebellion. The moment you stop over-explaining yourself, the moment you refuse a request that doesn't need to be accepted, the moment you write a downtime notice. None of these are isolated events. They are you saying to your own life, I don't have to keep using old thinking to hold up a new life. I can start growing a newer version of myself that actually fits this new life. And when you begin doing this, your life trajectory will, very quietly, start to drift away from that preset path toward collapse. From here, there is an even more crucial question. If you're no longer using old thinking to hold up a new life, then what is the direction line that is truly worth investing your whole life in? What is the long-ignored truth your breakdown has been trying to tell you? That is where we're ultimately going to walk to together. By the time you've made it here, you've probably started to sense one thing. That breakdown in adulthood was never some random accident crashing into your life. It's much more like life sending you a very serious system notification. You're already living a new version of life, but you're still running it with a self from a previous era. You've always believed the problem was out there. The economy is bad, there are too few opportunities, relationships are too complicated, the world is too noisy. But if you honestly look at your own timeline, you'll see a truth that is both harsher and more freeing. What truly can't carry you anymore is that old way of thinking you were fed as a child and never got to examine for yourself. Jung said something to this effect, as long as you refuse to make the unconscious conscious, it will go on directing the course of your life, and you will call it fate. You think, this is just how I am, or, this is the only way I can live. But very often, It's simply that your old self-narrative has never been updated. When Kierkegaard talks about despair, he describes it as a state of not wanting to be oneself. The exhaustion you feel now is, to a large extent, this gentle yet deadly despair. You have clearly stepped into a bigger world with more choices. Yet you're still using the old versions of yourself, the good child, the model employee, the sensible son or daughter, to explain everything that happens to you. In the Hermetic tradition, there is an ancient saying, as within, so without. In recent years, what you've tried hardest to control has all been the outside. Don't mess up, don't fall behind, don't be disliked, don't get eliminated. But what truly determines whether you can hold up this new life has always been the inner main thread. Who do you really believe you are? What version of life do you truly believe you deserve? If you still see yourself as that old character who can only comply, never lead, then this new life will only feel more and more like one huge intimidation. Every change becomes a threat. Every choice becomes a risk. Every desire feels like troubling other people. But the moment you're willing to acknowledge a more mature truth, I am not just the executor of old thinking. I am someone who can update the system. Your life path will start to bend, very subtly but very significantly. Imagine we go back to that very first night. You're sitting at your computer again, group chats flashing, emails pinging, family urging, your boss waiting. In the past, you would instantly switch to emergency mode, take everything on, push through in silence, then break down in the middle of the night. But this time, you add one extra step. You say to yourself first, wait. Let me see which old system is grabbing the steering wheel again. You notice the same lines popping up in your mind. I can't let people down. The way things are now is already pretty good, don't take risks. No one else is saying they're exhausted, what right do I have? This time, you don't obey them automatically. Instead, just as you've practiced, you treat them like alerts from an outdated program. Not as the only truth. Then you take a few actions that look tiny on the surface, but are enough to alter the direction of your life. You reply to your boss, there's no way I can finish this by tonight. I need to adjust priorities, or I can deliver a workable version tomorrow. You tell your family, I know you miss me, but I really need to rest this week. Next week I'll set aside time specifically to come home and be with you. You mute a couple of group chats that absolutely do not require instant replies. You close your laptop half an hour earlier than usual. Even if you simply lie on your bed staring at the ceiling, you stop forcing yourself to hold on a bit longer. On the surface, it seems as if nothing has changed. The room is still the same room. The emails won't disappear. Your relationships haven't suddenly become perfect. But one thing has been quietly rewritten at the root. You're no longer asking the old you to hold up a new life. You're allowing a currently updating you to decide how this new life is going to be played. This is the ultimate insight all of this has been circling toward. A breakdown in adulthood is not your failure. It is life reminding you. Your old worldview is no longer compatible with your reality. You have to learn to stand on your own side and write it again. If you go on using old thinking to hold up a new life, collapse is only a matter of time. If you're willing to update yourself for the sake of this new life, then the breakdown actually becomes a watershed. After that, you're no longer just the one who is always needed. You slowly become the person who can make decisions for themselves. You can, of course, keep playing the same role. Keep being the one who is always sensible, always available, always saying, "It's fine." Or, starting today, even if it's only in one tiny situation, you can make a different choice. You can pause and ask yourself, "And what about me?" No one else will make this decision for you. No one will hit pause on your behalf before you are completely drained. But the moment you update even a little, your boundaries, your narrative, your definition of who you are, your life path will no longer be the same one it was. Before you close this video, try turning this moment of watching into a real system update by quietly asking yourself a few questions. What is the single old line of thinking you lean on the most to keep yourself from collapsing? In your most unforgettable adult breakdown, at what moment did you suddenly realize who you had actually been living for all along? If today you allowed yourself just one small action that refuses to keep using old thinking to hold up a new life, what would that action be? Write your answers down, not just for the sake of engagement, but to bear witness for yourself. From this moment on, you're no longer just an adult struggling to prop up an outdated life. You are becoming someone who is willing, for the sake of a new life, to update the operating system of their own fate.